Hello and welcome, champions. Let's get right into today's whiteboard-style session where we are going to completely break down manufacturing industries. We're tossing out rote memorization today. Instead, we're building your concepts from the absolute ground up. By the end of this explainer, you're going to have a permanent mental filing cabinet for how literally everything around us, from the clothes you're wearing right now to the steel bridges we drive across, actually gets made. Let's do this. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering the backbone of development, how we classify industries, agro-based industries explained, mineral-based industries deep dive, IT, automobiles, and cement, and finally, we'll check your understanding.
Section 1, the backbone of development.
So first things first, we always have to start with the why. Why do geographers and economists absolutely obsess over the manufacturing sector? Well, because it's the true engine of our economic progress. It basically supports and upgrades everything else, especially agriculture, which is the base of our economy. Think about it like this. Imagine you've just picked a handful of raw cotton. It has some value, sure, but when a manufacturing plant takes that cotton, spins it, weaves it, and stitches it into a fresh, branded t-shirt, its value skyrockets. That right there is the magic of manufacturing. It transforms basic raw materials into high-value goods, which creates wealth. Plus, by creating millions of secondary and tertiary jobs in factories and services, it takes a massive load off our agricultural sector. Actually, this was the whole philosophy behind India's public sector industries: set up factories in backward areas to eradicate unemployment and pull people out of poverty. And when we export all those finished goods, we bring in precious foreign exchange.
Section 2, how we classify industries.
Now, the manufacturing sector in India is, well, it's massive. To make any sense of it, we kind of need a sorting hat, right? We need logical buckets to organize every mill and factory so we can understand how they work. We can classify them based on their raw materials. Are they agro-based, getting stuff from farms, or mineral-based, pulling from the earth? We can also look at their main role. A basic industry, like copper smelting, supplies materials to other factories. But a consumer industry, that makes goods directly for you and me, like toothpaste. Then there's capital investment. For instance, a small-scale industry currently has a max investment limit of 1 crore rupees. How about ownership? Public sector means government-owned, like BHEL. Private sector is owned by individuals. Think Bajaj Auto. Joint sectors, like Oil India Limited, are a mix of both. And cooperative sectors are owned by the producers themselves, where they pool their resources. Finally, we can just look at bulk and weight, heavy industries versus light industries. Keep this mental grid handy. We're going to use it.
Section 3, agro-based industries explained. Okay, let's pull out that first major bucket, agro-based industries. These are the factories tied directly to our farmers, turning crops into everyday essentials. Let's start with cotton textiles. There is a fascinating contrast here in how things are done. In India, the spinning of cotton, turning the raw fiber into yarn, is highly centralized. Most of it happens in these massive, world-class mills in Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Tamil Nadu. But the weaving process? That is incredibly decentralized. It's spread out across the country in homes, handlooms, and small workshops. Why do it this way? Because this decentralization allows us to incorporate magnificent traditional local skills. Think regional embroidery or intricate zari work. This is exactly why Mahatma Gandhi put such a heavy emphasis on spinning yarn and weaving hand-spun khadi. It wasn't just some political statement. It was a brilliant economic strategy to provide large-scale employment to weavers right inside their own homes. Next up, we have the golden fiber itself, jute. Now, India is the largest producer of raw jute in the entire world. But if you want to find a jute mill, you're pretty much looking at one specific area, a narrow belt right along the banks of the Hooghly River in West Bengal. This is a perfect example of geography dictating business. The Hooghly Basin just offers everything this industry needs. It's right next to the jute-producing areas, it gives them incredibly cheap water transport, and it provides the sheer abundance of water you absolutely need to process raw jute. Add in a steady supply of cheap labor coming in from West Bengal and nearby states like Bihar, Odisha, and UP, and you've got the perfect industrial hub.
Let's talk about sugar. Historically, sugar mills were heavily concentrated up north, especially in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. But lately, the map is shifting. The mills are concentrating down in the southern and western states, specifically Maharashtra. Take a second and think about this. Why would an entire massive agricultural industry pack up and move south?
Well, it basically comes down to climate and business models. You see, the sugarcane produced in those southern and western regions actually has a higher sucrose content. It's literally sweeter and yields more sugar. Also, the cooler climate down there means the crushing season lasts much, much longer. And remember that classification table we talked about? The sugar industry is totally seasonal, which makes it absolutely perfect for the cooperative sector model. And cooperatives just happen to be exceptionally well managed and highly successful in states like Maharashtra.
Section 4. Mineral-based industries deep dive. All right, let's transition from the farms over to the mines. We're opening up our second major bucket, mineral-based industries. These are the heavy hitters pulling metals and minerals straight from the earth to build our modern world. And the absolute undisputed king here is the iron and steel industry. We call this the basic industry. Why? Because literally every other industry depends on it for their machinery. You can't run a textile mill without steel machines, right? It's the ultimate heavy industry. Since everything going in and coming out is super bulky, transport costs are massive. And the recipe to make steel is incredibly strict. You absolutely need iron ore, coking coal, and limestone in an exact ratio of approximately 4 to 2 to 1. Let's actually walk through how this builds step by step. First, you transport all those heavy raw materials to the plant. Then, into the blast furnace they go, where the iron ore is melted down. We throw in limestone as a flexing material to draw out the impurities, which we call slag, and we burn the coke to heat the whole thing up. This creates molten material that is poured into molds, giving us something called pig iron. But wait, we're not done. In the steelmaking phase, that pig iron is further purified by melting and oxidizing the remaining impurities. We usually add a bit of manganese, nickel, or chromium to harden it. Finally, we get to the shaping phase, rolling, pressing, casting, and forging it into the steel beams that hold up our cities. While iron and steel might be the backbone, other mineral-based industries are definitely flexing their muscles too. Take aluminum smelting. It uses this dark, bulky, reddish rock called bauxite as its raw material. But the big catch with aluminum, it demands massive, uninterrupted supplies of electricity to process. So cheap power is a prime factor for where these plants pop up. Then we have the chemical industries. This sector is fast-growing and diversifying all over India, producing everything from the sulfuric acid used in your agricultural fertilizers to the basic chemicals needed for things like plastics, synthetic fibers, and even soaps. Section 5, IT, automobiles, and cement. Now, let's shift gears to the sectors that physically connect us and wire us into the global economy. These are the modern growth engines. First up, cement. Obviously essential for all construction. It relies heavily on bulky stuff like limestone, silica, and gypsum. Then look at automobiles. This sector absolutely exploded after India's economic liberalization. The sudden entry of new, contemporary models stimulated massive market demand. Today we've got these bustling, high-tech automotive hubs around Delhi, Pune, and Chennai. And finally, the crown jewel of our modern era, IT and electronics. Bengaluru has firmly established itself as the electronic capital of India. The massive continuing growth of hardware and software here is generating incredible employment and really shaping the future of the country. Section 6. Check your understanding. Huge congratulations on mapping out the entire manufacturing landscape of India. We went from raw cotton all the way to software. Now, let's test how well that mental filing cabinet is working with a classic word puzzle. Take a close look at the letters here. Let's see if we can decode the clues together and spot the hidden answers in the grid. Okay, how did you do? Let's check them. Clue 1, the golden fiber. Yep, for sure, that's jute. Clue 2, the basic raw material for the sugar industry, sugarcane, which is the whole reason those mills are moving south. Clue 3, a public sector steel plant located in Chhattisgarh, that would be Balai, a perfect example of government ownership aiming to boost a regional area. And the final clue, the industry requiring iron ore, coking coal, and limestone in that strict 4 to 2 to 1 ratio, absolutely, that is the iron and steel industry, our basic industry. If you nailed these, your concepts are rock solid. We have covered incredible ground today. We know for a fact that manufacturing is the backbone of our development. It creates jobs, it creates goods, and it creates wealth. But, and this is the big but, it also requires extracting resources from the earth, which brings us to a very real-world trade-off. As we push hard to be globally competitive, we also have to confront the realities of industrial pollution and the serious environmental hazards that happen in mining zones. So, here is my question to you. How do, as a fast-developing nation, strike that perfect balance between rapid industrialization and environmental sustainability? It is a massive challenge, and frankly, it's one your generation will have to solve. Keep pondering that question, keep reviewing those concepts, and I will see you in the next explainer.